So, again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for my team for putting this together, especially Andrea Kidder. All of this design work and everything is all of her hard work. So let's just get started real quick with 2024 in review. So some of the events that took place, Channel 3 News did come to the City of Tallmadge in, I think it was January of last year, and they did an episode on ladies in leadership. And that's because the first time in 217 years, the City of Tallmadge had all 3 executive officers, their Tallmadge government run by women. So the only other community that has that distinction is the city of Lakewood. So I am very proud to be part of that. Great trailblazing with us women. Thank you ladies very much. I've always had so much respect for our law director, Megan Raber, and our finance director, Molly Gilbride. These women are brilliant in what they do, and I'm extremely fortunate to work with them side by side. Some of the other pictures up here are just a BRE visit that I had with one of our businesses, summer fun in Saxon Village, just some of the beautification that the city does. One of our house fires that we had this year, I did have the honor also of being at the birthday party for Betty Kinnan, and she turned 105 years old. I think she's the oldest person in Tallmadge. So. And then there's a water main repair, and just our recreation department puts on our Family Fall Festival every year, and that just depicts it. So we'll go on a little bit more in depth of what each department did throughout the course of the year. We have our prescription drug take-back days. This is in cooperation between the law department and the police department, and they put these on in April and October of every year. And if you have any prescription drugs you want to get rid of, they stand there in a drive-through. You just drive up, you can dispose of them, and they'll dispose of them properly. As you can see, over 300 pounds of medication were collected throughout last year, and 145 pounds of empty pill bottles and so forth. We do have a dump box in the police station lobby. If you have prescription drugs that you want to get rid of at any point in time, just go to the police station and you can put them in there and we can get them disposed of properly. Another thing that we do every year is our e-waste recycling, and this is done in cooperation with our IT department. So if you have any electronics that become non-usable anymore, you can bring them to our drive-through recycling drive. They'll take them, they'll dispose of them. It's at no cost. I think if you want to have your hard drive destroyed or something like that, there might be a small charge, or if you have one of the old TVs with a tube in it, there's a charge for that. And we do get those. We also have, as you can see, a electronic recycling bin that's in the community center parking lot, so you can at any time get rid of your old electronics there. Just make sure you put it on the inside. Another item that happened last year is the solar eclipse. We all witnessed that, so this is just a fun little picture of me witnessing the solar eclipse at City Hall. I got to spend some time with our K9 Mattis. It was really fun. I like the sunglasses that he kept on. And then the picture there of 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it getting dark, and all of the lights coming on. It's around City Hall. So we also have some new employees and some new initiatives. As you can see, we have our new Director of Administration, Joe Ignazito. He returned to the City of Tallmadge after a career in another place for 20 years, and we welcome him aboard. We also welcome Allie Schwartz as our Human Resource Administrator. These 2 individuals are invaluable to the city, and I don't know what I would do without them. They really pull a huge lift. And then speaking of new also, we have the Tallmadge Circular. So we started this last year in cooperation with the Tallmadge City Schools. It's a newsletter that is mailed out to our residents, just giving the information that we used to get in the Tallmadge Express. So when the Tallmadge Express closed up and nobody was getting a newspaper, the biggest thing that I heard was, we don't know what's going on in the city. We don't know when events are. A lot of people don't. Our population has over 30% of our population is over the age of 70, so they do not follow social media. So this newsletter was a great collaboration between the schools. Thank you very much, Steve, and thanks to Kelly Christopher for all of her hard work as well. We're expanding it this year by adding our rec department into it as well, so she's now able to put in all of her events in this magazine or this spring publication, and it's mailed out to every household and every business in the city. And also another thing I did last year was institute after hours with the mayor. So on the fourth Thursday of every month, I just stay at City Hall after work between 4 and 6 o'clock, and I just welcome any community member that wants to come and talk to me. It's a nice way, especially this first year, to get to know a lot of the community members that we have and to hear their voices and to hear their complaints and their issues. And a lot of times I just get people that came and said, I just want to meet you. I want to let you know that I like the direction the city is going in, so let's keep it going forward. So that was another thing that we did. It is on the fourth Thursday of every month while council is in session. So like in March, council goes on recess for spring break, so I won't be having my after hours until April 24th. That will be my next one. Another new thing we did last year was we changed our domain. So we had a new domain launch in November of 2024. What that means is our emails and our website was all at talmadge-oh.org. Very long, very hard. And we were able to get the .gov domain. So it's now talmadge-oh.gov. What that does is by using a .gov domain, it increases the integrity of our website. It helps the public to identify that it's official government information, and it's only verified U.S. government organizations can register for a .gov domain. But I think probably what I think is the best thing, because I like to be fiscally responsible, .gov domains are free, so we don't have to spend any money on a domain. We also did a website refresh last year. We started it in July, and it was a collaboration between the City Administrative Office, the Finance Department, and the Law Departments. And we did a modernization of the format. We improved the colors, we improved the functionality. We looked at which sites and which buttons were used the most and arranged things so that it was easier for our residents and our public to use. And I have a special thank you to Justin Delaney, Scott Niedert, Mac Jones, Andrea Kidder, Jessica Simons, Tish Rowland, and Helene Hussing for their significant contributions to this success. So like I said, we started this in July, and it did not launch until January 2nd of this year. So I'm very happy with our new website as well. The farmers market is something that's been going on for 7 years now. It's a great asset that we have in the city. Andrea Kidder runs this. She gets all of the vendors and everything. And this year, the farmers market was the best in so many ways. We had the highest number of vendors that registered. We had 83 vendors that registered for our farmers market. We had the highest number of vendors in attendance in 1 week, and there were 54 vendors at one of the weekly events. And we also had the highest average attendance of vendors, which is 44. So that's a really big farmers market, and it takes an immense amount of work, and Andrea does a great job with it. The other pictures that you see up here, Andrea was asked to go speak at the Tallmadge Elementary School's 4th grade classes, and she just talked about the farmers market, and they asked, what can we do to help you? And she says, well, you guys can draw pictures, and then I'll use these pictures for my social media posts as I advertise for the farmers market. And so that's what they did. So our farmers market, I'm sure, is going to be just as great this year, and it starts on June the 12th. Economic development. You guys all know how important economic development is to me because it's the lifeblood of our city. In 2023, former Mayor Klein contracted with Insight Advisory Group to work in economic development for the city. To me, that was a brilliant plan to start with them. They're doing a fantastic job. In 2024, I expanded their contract, and they have worked tirelessly with us on a number of different initiatives. Some of the projects that Insight have worked with us are listed up here. We visited, a BRE is a business retention and expansion visit. So they arranged, and we visited over 52 businesses in the city last year. They assisted with the West Avenue and Neighborhood Center overlay projects. They attended meetings and followed up on development plans. They also completed a new business resource guide, which you can see up here as well. This is a guide that has all of the different stats of what goes of the City of Tallmadge, the different programs that we have, and just different information that a new business would need as they decide to bring their business here to Tallmadge. So they helped us to develop this wonderful document as well. And they also helped us plan and facilitate a very important work session between council and planning and zoning. We also had 6 ribbon cuttings in 2024. 2 of these ribbon cuttings were for new businesses that came to the area, and the other 4 were just as important because they're expansion of existing businesses. So that just tells you that Tallmadge is prospering. The new ribbon cuttings were Chase Bank out in the JEDD, and then also the ribbon cutting of the City of Tallmadge's very own dog park. So our very first dog park, we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And then the other businesses were Royal Union Pet Shop. They started with a very small pet shop, and they ended up moving across the street and more than doubling their size in a very short period of time. I think they told me something about there's a #1 reptile like store in the state. So if you want a reptile, you're coming here to Tallmadge, Ohio. They've got some pretty scary reptiles too. We have Tallmadge Family Eye Care Center. They expanded and put their own building in over on Metric. We also have Jody Rarick with Remax Diversity. She has also expanded again. She does fabulous with her business and moved over to Metric Drive as well. And then Zeal Lifestyle Collective. It was the former Tallmadge Chiropractic, which I know they're here today too. They have completely rebranded and just expanded like you cannot believe, and so they had a new ribbon cutting with their rebranding. So let's talk a little bit about the Tallmadge-Brimfield Joint Economic Development District. As many of you guys know, the Joint Economic Development District is located in Brimfield, and it's very important to both communities. The Brimfield Township cannot collect income tax because they're a township. So with this partnership with Tallmadge, they're able to collect income tax, and it's shared with the City of Tallmadge. So Tallmadge gets 50% of the income tax that is earned in the JEDD. And that place is growing like you cannot believe. I'd like to thank Mike Ladd and his staff for all of their hard work in Brimfield Township to bring these businesses to the JEDD. Here are some of the businesses that are either have already opened in 2024 or they're in construction right now. And the in construction is just as important because as the workers are building the building, we're still getting income tax off of their wages as well. So again, thank you, Mike Ladd, for everything that you've done to help the Joint Economic Development District. So next we're going to talk a little bit about public service and our ARPA fund projects. As many of you know, the American Rescue Act is federal funding that communities received as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The City of Tallmadge in total received a little over $1.8 million. We used a large chunk of this to revitalize Howell Road Park. We have a park master plan that has expansion and improvements for all of our parks, but it's very costly. And in order to expend that tax dollars, it's something that's not done to a degree that we would like to. So these ARPA funds allowed us to do a big revitalization of Howell Road Park. And as you can see, we changed the entrance to Howell Road Park, made it easier access in and out. We added brand new bathrooms, we added a new pavilion, and then we added Tallmadge's very first dog park. I'd also like to thank the street department because they also helped with a lot of these projects here with the ARPA funds. They helped with the new pavilion and the restrooms, and they also helped by replacing an asphalt drive going back to the rear section of the ball field on Howell Road. So if you haven't visited, please do because it's beautiful. More things with public service. We had an emergency repair of the Perry Road crossover. So there's a huge culvert that goes across Perry Road to carry stormwater. We knew that it needed to be replaced, so we had it in the 2025 budget to replace it. We had the engineering done in 2024. And then everyone knows we had a pretty rainy season last year. And last August, we had a huge rain event, and it completely washed out that culvert. You can see on the far left-hand side, it's a steel, very rotted out culvert. We replaced it with a concrete culvert, elliptical in size, a little bit bigger, so it can carry a little bit more water. And then you can see the magnitude of how big it is by the size of the people next to it. It's pretty big. Incidentally, this whole project, when it washed out, the road was deemed unsafe by an engineer, so we did have to close Perry Road from the end of August until the beginning of October when that was completely done. But this culvert should provide better stormwater access or stormwater flow for everyone that lives in that area, and a great job was done by the contractors on that. So that was, like I said, an emergency repair we weren't planning to do, but I'd like to thank City Council for expending the money and appropriating it so that we could get it done timely. So we'll talk a little bit about the street department. I'd like to thank them for the immense amount of work that they do. Some of the things that they started last year, the employees now use iPads for all of their communication. It just increases the efficiency. They get their work orders through the iPads. They can actually have all the plans in front of them and not have to rely on paper. And when they're done, they can also just go on to the next one without having to change paper. It's really helped them out a lot. They also are using GPS tracking on their iPads. So the picture on the bottom is a snowplow route, and it tracks exactly where our snowplows are going. So when we get that phone call from someone saying, hey, they missed my street, they didn't snowplow, we can go back and check to see if they ever did or not. And so it's very beneficial in that way. It also tracks our leaf program as well. And they also implemented Cartograph. What Cartograph is, it's a work order system. As I said, they're getting their work orders through the iPad, but they can also now, they can check in on the project, they can look at each item that needs to be done on the project, and then when they're done with the project, they sign out on it. So we know exactly how many hours is spent on each project. And it's a great financial tool, so we really know exactly where we're at financially on each project. Some of the other improvements that have happened through the street department, 2 brand new 5-ton trucks were purchased. They also, that picture also shows, I guess, the green, white, and amber strobe lights that are put on a majority of the equipment for safety reasons. I do know recently was going into work at 7 o'clock. With the time change, it's a little bit darker, and all of a sudden I see these red, green, and white strobe lights coming at me down Van Ever, and I was like, that's what I'm seeing, okay. You can also see the brand new Christmas tree. I really want to thank Cheryl Essler. She did such a wonderful job picking out this Christmas tree. Everybody that went around Tallmadge Circle can see how beautiful our Christmas decorations were this year. It was very special this year, and I'm so proud of that. The street department also prepares for a number of events throughout the city. Up top there is the community gardens. They prepare that for our community members to garden. They help out with Memorial Day, Circle Fest, electronic recycling, Fall Festival, prescription drug take back, Veterans Day, they even help out with the Tallmadge Little League Parade. So anything where there's going to be a community event, the street department touches it in some way, shape, or form. They have a new way to do our leaf collection, as you can see from that bottom picture there. It's really fascinating to watch them. They get an immense amount of leaves done a lot faster than before, and it's a lot cleaner too, because then they have it all cleaned up and they bring the street sweeper through, and I just think it's a great way that they do the leaf program. And then we also, all of the pavilions in our parks had different names on them. And so we kind of looked through and kind of vetted them to see if they had any meaning to any certain specific person, and they really didn't. So we did a little program, and we changed them all to different trees. So this one happens to be Shady Side Pavilion. But what this also shows is that our street department makes these signs, and it's really cool. They have this whole sign department, and you just tell them what you want, and they can make signs like you could not believe. They're beautiful. Okay, we'll go on to the utility department. The utility department has both water and sanitary sewer in their responsibility. I'd like to thank them for all of their hard work. They're like the silent people that get things done that never get the thanks that they need. So some accomplishments in our water department: we had 16 repaired water main breaks, 17 hydrants repaired or replaced, 4 mainline valves were dug up and repaired, 97 valves exercised. They also installed fiber optic from the water tower to the pump station. That was very important so that we could have reliable connectivity between those two. And then there were some electrical updates to the water tower vault, and you can see the before and after pictures on this as well. On the sanitary sewer side, they did a number of different improvements as well. This top picture here is a manhole that years and years and years ago, when the street was paved, there might not have been an inspector paying attention and the manhole was paved over. Well, then when you don't see it, it gets paved over and over and over and over again. So they found 7 manholes that were discovered, and they were unburied and then repaired. And they were discovered by doing the 46,667 linear feet of televising. So by taking the camera through there and televising them, that's where they found where these manholes were supposed to be. And it's also part of the whole GIS system that they have, is they're able to now pinpoint where those manholes are, and we now have better access and accountability of where our assets are. So you can see the number of different sewer accomplishments here. Probably one of the biggest ones that everybody here might have actually witnessed was the 72 feet of sanitary sewer that was replaced right in front of Key Bank, right on the circle. And that was last summer, I believe. We'll go on to our planning and zoning department now. They're extremely, extremely busy. And I really want to thank them for all their hard work. Helene Hussing really pulled a huge lift this last year, and I want to thank her very much. You could see all of the different licenses and certificates and permits that they process through their department. A number of new residential dwellings, a majority of those were in Tallmadge Reserve. And we also had we have 5 new non-residential structures. Those are a new building for StoreTech, the new McDonald's, Jordan Equipment, on North Avenue, what we call the Testa building, and Acrochem. So those are the new development within Tallmadge and the Joint Economic Development District and the annexed area. Planning and zoning is also responsible for code enforcement. And you can see in 2024, they had 194 new complaints that were logged. Those complaints can be anything from, a zoning code violation to a noise nuisance to an animal nuisance. And they also closed 162 of those cases by the end of the year. So they were very busy in their code enforcement as well. And one of the ways that they're able to manage the workload that they do is this year they started with OpenGov, which is an online submittal portal. So this gives our contractors a faster and easy way to submit applications. And it's a 24-hour online access in order to file and update any application at any time. It also reduces the amount of paper that's used, and it gives people the ability to upload documents anytime as needed. So if you have an engineer that's working on a print or on something and they need to upload it and they don't get it done till 6 o'clock at night, they don't have to wait until the next day and bring it down to City Hall. They can upload it into the system. And it's a great way for them to also keep track of all of those code enforcements that you saw on the previous slide. So you can, residents and community members can report a concern or report some type of a code violation under a button on our website called Report a Concern. So if you see something that you think is not right, just go to our website, find the button, and click it, and you can fill everything out, and it goes right to our planning and zoning department. So I want to thank them very much for all that hard work. And they're not done, because they did a lot of work, like I said, last year. I would say the biggest lift they did was with the West Avenue overlay and the neighborhood center overlay. When I came into office last year, we had our meetings with our departments, and I met with planning and zoning and talked with Helene, and she was like, we really need to start mapping some of these overlays. So after a lot of discussion, I was like, West Avenue is the most important one for us. This is our corridor to the city of Akron. This is what people see. This is our largest road. We need to revitalize it. So we started mapping the West Avenue overlay. And this was started, like I said, in probably February of last year. There was a lot of community engagement that was had with it. And through our community engagement and through our surveys, we found out that the people that live along West Avenue felt the same way. Yes, we need revitalization, but what are you going to do to protect us? Our homes are adjacent to commercial property, and we would very much like to have some kind of a buffer. So what are you going to do to protect us? And it was those residents that live right along that border that came to us and said, we would like you to allow a residential component in certain areas to protect us. So we looked into it, and like I said, a lot of work between planning and zoning and law department and city administration, and then eventually city council, looking at everything and mapping where the neighborhood center overlay is over top of the West Avenue overlay. And so these were finalized and approved by council on January 23rd, and they went into effect on February 23rd. And we're expecting a nice revitalization of West Avenue. What does the West Avenue and neighborhood center overlay, what kind of economic benefits do that bring to us? As you can see, it makes a more vibrant mixed-use environment. It attracts new businesses, expansion of existing businesses, but the bottom line is this expands the tax base to fund our public services and our infrastructure. So we need to do this hard work now so that we can expand that tax base and be able to fund everything. So now we'll go on to the Tallmadge Cemetery, because yes, that's in planning and zoning too. They do so much. We had 56 burials last year. We have 72 burial plots were sold. As you can see, 10 for the columbarium niches. The columbariums are, we have a columbarium park in the cemetery, as you can see in the first picture here. We have about 140 of those niches available. And then down below, because our cemetery is pretty much filled up, there's not a lot of spaces left. I think there's only 324 plots left. But we have some small areas that we'd like to utilize better. So we have the engineering was completed for a new cremation park. And this is just a picture of what the cremation park could potentially look like. It's not the actual engineering, but that engineering was completed in 2024, and we're hoping to be able to start building that here this next year. So now we'll go on to Parks and Recreation. I want to thank Jessica Simons, who is the superintendent of our Parks and Recreation Department. She really pulls a huge lift, and her team works very hard with her to do everything that they do. As you can see, the rec visits were up over 21,000 from the year 2023. We're getting very close to being where we were at pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, the rec center was really just going gangbusters, and so she's been working hard to get back up to that level. Memberships have been increased to over 275 new members from 2023 to 2024 as well. They're also responsible for Macca Park. And you can see here at Macca Park, because we did have a much rainier, poorer weather last summer, visits were down just about $3,000 from the previous year. We sell 2,250 memberships every year. We do limit that in order to maintain the park better and make sure that it runs more efficiently. Some of the improvements to the Macca Park last year is the floor was painted and there were some new picnic tables. And then at the end of the year, when everybody's done swimming in it and they're getting ready to close it up, they let our 4 residents use it for one time, and they have a doggy dip at the end of the year, and it was pretty fun. I took my dog last year. So the rec center celebrated its 20-year anniversary. I cannot believe that it was 20 years since the rec center started, because it seemed just like yesterday I was taking my 5-year-old son over there. And it's been 20 years. So we did celebrate this last year. With 20 years of any of our facilities, you need to do improvements. We're always doing equipment upgrades to make sure that they're safe for our residents to use. But they also, a huge expense was new flooring in our Tallmadge Rec Center. So in the offices there, so they did replace all the floors there. We also have a new sign above the entrance there with lighting. And then, I'm probably not going to pronounce it right because I have a problem with this. The new app is called the Rec Track app, and that was launched in 2024, and right now they have over 700 members that have downloaded and used this app. With this app, you just open it up, you automatically have your membership in there. You can go in and register for any of the events that they have, and it's a great way to help the staff at the rec center. Some of the programs that the rec center has offered this year is They have 98 different programs that were offered. They had 13 different leagues and tournaments, 17 different events or programs. You could see the thousands of people and hundreds and over 70 teams that were serviced at the rec center. One of the other things that they started this last year was their requests for personal training was greater than what their personal trainers could do. So in order to be able to service our residents and our community members, they contracted with Butler Fitness, and Butler Fitness now provides personal training at the rec center. And they really do a great job. We've had a lot of positive feedback from them. And then the bottom picture is just one of the concerts at the park that we have a couple of those every year, and our rec department also maintains those and runs those. So this last year, we expanded the sports and fitness coordinator position to a full-time position, and this was to expand our programming at the rec center. So they have also started a number of new adult and youth sport leagues, and they also hosted 4 Asian Sun Taekwondo tournaments. Those Taekwondo tournaments were such a success, they've already registered for 5 more this year, and I think that's going to be a continuing theme throughout the next several years because it was really well received. Parks and Recreation Summer Camp is extremely popular with our community. As you can see here, we have a lot of young people, campers that come here and spend all day with our counselors. Because it's so popular, we added new age groups so that we could serve more families. Each age group is smaller in size so that we can increase that camper to counselor, or actually decrease the camper to counselor ratio so that they have more personalized attention. We also adjusted the registration so that they could prioritize families who rely on this summer camp as their primary daycare during the summer. Like I said, very well received. The picture in the center, you see them decorating around a storm sewer grate. This is actually something that helps us with our EPA compliance. The EPA requires us to do a number of things, and one of them is an educational component. So we have them decorate around the storm sewer, indicating what cannot be put in the storm sewer. So in other words, only water can go in the storm sewer. Do not put gasoline down there. Do not put anything else. So they decorate it just to highlight that so people don't do what's wrong. So now we'll go on to public safety. As you can see from these slides, the fire department side, our EMS calls have been steadily around the 2,800 EMS calls for service each year. They've pretty much leveled out. It's getting pretty steady, as well as fire calls are right around that 1,000 range. On the police side, you see calls for service have increased. This increase in activity reflects a shift in departmental focus under the new command staff, and it emphasizes enforcement actions. A key factor of the safety initiative, which was launched in 2023, was directed patrols. And these encourage our officers to conduct targeted criminal and traffic enforcement at specific locations and times. This initiative, along with increased traffic enforcement, generates additional calls for service. So when you exclude the officer-initiated activities like traffic stops and directed patrols, our calls for service increase was only about 11%. And that was more community-generated calls as opposed to a rise in crime. So the higher the number of moving violations and arrests reflects proactive policing rather than an increase in criminal activity. So it looks like it's a lot more than normal, but it's because of the directed patrols and the increased traffic stops that the patrolmen have been doing. I'd like to thank Chief Bohan over here very much for everything that he's done in his dedication to the advancement of the police department. One of the things that has been very important to him is employee recognition. And our police officers, in my opinion, are some of the best in the area, and they deserve these commendations. So he issued 88 commendations to his police officers in 2024. It's impressive. As you can see here, they range from the Distinguished Service Medals all the way down to Certificates of Excellence. And I just want to thank all of our police department and our patrol officers for all the work that they do to keep us safe. Thank you. Well deserved. Another thing that our police department took the reins on this year was the Circle Fest and Light Parade safety. So they coordinated the whole safety aspect of the Circle Fest. It was very impressive to watch them do this. You can see this picture in the center is, I'm going to try to pronounce it. It is the Recon View Manned Surveillance Tower. I just call it the tower. It's a surveillance tower that we were fortunate enough to be able to borrow from the county. Thank you very much for that. It was loaned to us at no charge for the event. It's a way for us to keep a bird's eye view of what's going on at Circle Fest. We also implemented drones and we kept a drone up at all times so that we could see what was going on around the circle. And you can see one of the pictures that it took of the circle at night. I thought that was a cool picture. So flock cameras, you guys have probably seen these popping up around the city. They're cameras that read license plates and they send the instant alerts to law enforcement officers when the cameras identify license plates that are of interest to the police. So what they do basically is if you have an event, I'm just going to give an example of a lost elderly person that their family has not been able to see them. The last time they saw them was maybe I'm just going to go with an example from recently. They talked to somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning and they said that their elderly father had had car trouble in another community and they couldn't find him. He wasn't answering his phone at home, wasn't answering his cell phone, they couldn't find him. Through the use of the flock cameras, our Tallmadge Police Department was able to finally pinpoint this person in Tallmadge around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So they talked to him like at 1 o'clock in the morning and they could not find him until 9. What had actually happened is this poor gentleman had a flat tire and had the runaround of getting a tow truck, getting his car towed to someplace, and then getting a ride back home, and his cell phone had died at the same time. So, but they were able to find him and make sure that he was okay because they finally found his license plate came into Tallmadge. So that's one of the very easy ways that the flock cameras can be used. There's also a number of actual policing ways that it can be used as well, and they're also very, very useful for us. So it does enhance our city safety for services. So I'm going to read this so I don't get this wrong. Another one of Chief Bohan's initiatives has been establishing policies and best practices for our police department. And the Ohio Law Enforcement Collaborative was created by the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services, and this was done in order to ensure accountability and to instill greater public confidence. Each standard requires a proof of best practices for policy and procedure, knowledge and awareness, proficiency in testing, and agency compliance and accountability. And the Ohio Collaborative established 13 of these best practice standards for law enforcement in high liability areas. Just to name a couple of these standards, use of force standard, motor vehicle pursuit standard, positive youth interactions, like I said, 13 different standards. And by the end of 2024, our Tallmadge Police Department met all 13 of those standards. I think that's phenomenal, and I think they need another round of applause. Thank you. I also want to thank all of our auxiliary officers, because without them, we could not do a number of the things that are done around the city. As you can see, they have put in over 5,000 total hours of service to our city, conducting anything from vacation checks to park patrols, the Juvenile Diversion Center, and patrolling the Freedom Center, the Freedom Trail. So I want to thank them very much for all the work that they do helping out throughout our city very quietly. They do so much. So now we're going to get on to the fire department, near and dear to my heart, because as many of you know, my husband spent 41 years as a part-time firefighter here in Tallmadge. I would like to thank Chief John Underwood for everything that he has done as well. Where's John? There he is. Thank you so much for everything. And 2024, one of the great things that we were able to do was hire 3 more full-time firefighters. And I'd like to welcome Stuart and Austin to the Tallmadge Fire Department family. They're very fortunate to be in that family. So thank you very much on that. The Fire Prevention Division is staffed by our fire marshal and our state certified fire inspectors, and the staff is responsible for investigating fires and applying and enforcing the Ohio Fire Code. Like I said, we had 2 major house fires this last year. That was significant in our community. And there's also a number of other events that our fire inspectors had to go through and investigate. One of the things that most people do not know is every time a food truck comes into our city, it has to be inspected for fire safety. So they also do that as well. So I just want to thank everything that they do in order to provide the safety education programs to our citizens and our community and schools as well too. So speaking of fire safety, this all ties into the fun things that firefighter Sandy does throughout the city. I think everyone here knows who firefighter Sandy is. She's been with the fire department for over 40 years as well, and she is responsible for fire safety within our city. She visits with our community members on the Freedom Trail. She works with the safety school. She helps with our senior citizens, so she will go to the number of apartment buildings that are geared for seniors, and she will do fire drills with them, teach them fire safety, tell them what and what not to do. Like, example, if you're cooking something with oil on the stove and you see it smoking, you better turn that down because it's going to catch fire any minute now. And she helps out with a number of other community organizations. So this was all to help educate our community on fire safety. Also under the public safety is the 9/11 Memorial. I think this is one of the most beautiful memorials that we have for the victims, the people that lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. In 2002, the memorial started by the fire department, and it began with flags, each flag representing a fallen firefighter. And those flags were put right where the community bulletin board is on the circle. In 2023, candles were added, and then it expanded from there. And right now we have 2,976 candles that line the sidewalks of the Tallmadge Circle Park. And each candle represents a life lost on that horrific day. The red candles are for the fire department personnel, blue are for police, green are for military, and the white candles are for the civilians that lost their lives. And if you know anything about that fateful day, there was 2,518 civilians that lost their lives that day. The Tallmadge Fire Department also really put a big concentration on training their fire department. They did over 1,800 hours of training hours this year, and that was a significant increase from previous years. So I want to thank our fire chief for promoting training again this year. Thank you very much. These are just some pictures of some of the many classes that our fire department went through. They had technical rescue, sprinkler system training, pipeline emergencies, and even a drone pilot test class that was given by our Lieutenant Beatty, who is actually a licensed pilot. So that is what happened in 2024. What also happened in 2024 is we decided to work on a strategic plan. When I met with our voters in 2023, they shared with me what they loved about Tallmadge. And many of them spoke about their hopes for the future. And there was a reoccurring theme that kept emerging, and so that inspired me to develop this strategic plan. And this is a way to shape our path forward. I want to thank, again, Steve Wood with the Tallmadge City Schools, because you're the one that put that little bug in my ear. The schools have had a strategic plan for a number of years. And so it's like, if the schools can do it, so can we. Most municipalities in the Northeast Ohio area do not have a strategic plan. It's kind of popular in other communities, especially south around the Columbus area, but you don't see that in our communities here in Northeast Ohio. This is a great way for us to be able to look forward and plan for the future. We can plan 5 years out for sure. We can also have a 10-year vision as well. So the City of Tallmadge, in collaboration with Round River Consulting and guided by a strategic planning team, developed a comprehensive strategic plan that reflects the voices and priorities of the community. Through a robust and inclusive engagement process, residents, business leaders, and stakeholders provided invaluable insights that form the foundation of this plan. And I sincerely appreciate the dedication and hard work of the strategic planning team. Your commitment and effort have been instrumental in shaping this plan. Thank you very much to those of you that are here today. I really appreciate it. The City of Tallmadge prioritized public participation throughout the planning process. This ensured a diverse and representative range of perspectives. This engagement included 21 individual interviews. These were with city officials, council members, and key stakeholders to identify emerging issues. We also had 5 focus groups. These were held in October of '24. Each of those were tailored to different community sectors. We had some longtime residents, some newer residents. We had local businesses, community groups, and economic development partners. We also had a town meeting, which was facilitated in-depth conversations with key areas of interest and was supported by a dedicated working group of table hosts. And we also had an extensive community survey, which was available both online and in print, and it reached nearly 1,100 responses, demonstrating a very high level of civic engagement. Each step in this process built upon the previous one, ultimately leading to the development of the city's strategic plan. Again, I want to express my deep gratitude to everyone that participated and contributed to making this plan a reality. The heart of the strategic plan is a shared vision. Our vision statement is to be a vibrant community where progress builds upon our rich heritage, creating a welcoming place for everyone. This vision statement is what we want people to see us as. The vision is supported by a strong mission. We strive to provide continued excellence in city services that support and enrich a vibrant quality of life for every member of our community. The plan is grounded in core values as well. Now, this mission statement is how we're going to get there. And now these core values are fostering public trust, responding to community needs, and respecting all. We will foster public trust by actively cultivating trust by maintaining transparency, fiscal responsibility, and integrity in all our actions and decisions. Responding to community needs, we prioritize understanding and address the evolving needs of our community by being proactive and responsive. And respecting all, we demonstrate respect and fairness in every interaction, valuing diversity and contribution of all individuals. And we will make every decision based on these core values. So our next steps. The City of Tallmadge is committed to translating this vision statement into action. And moving forward, the city will allocate resources using the strategic priorities, and we will track metrics and utilize strategic budgeting software. These strategic priorities are, maintaining quality services, growing economic opportunity, constructing connected neighborhoods, promoting a vibrant community, and communicating with clarity. By maintaining quality services, we're going to strengthen our infrastructure, we're going to maintain our existing infrastructure, and we're going to achieve and maintain adequate levels of qualified personnel. We're going to grow our economic opportunity by promoting adaptive reuse, expand our business opportunity, we're going to develop strategic partnerships, and we're going to enhance the city's economic development team. We're going to construct connected neighborhoods by creating a plan to develop a more connected community. In our budget this year, we do have money allocated to go out to engineering to see exactly where we can have additional connectivity within our city. And we also want to improve access to Tallmadge Circle, because that is one of our wonderful parks that we have, but it's very hard to utilize because it's hard to get there. We want to promote a vibrant community. We're going to continue this implementation of the city planning initiatives. We will continue to look at our thoroughfare plan and all of the other plans that we have. We're going to continue to look at those. We're going to create recreation and enrichment opportunities, and we're going to do what we can to enhance our existing housing stock. And we want to communicate with clarity. We'll communicate high priority information. We're already doing this with that newsletter that we started. And we're also going to maintain communication channels with our community, again, through that newsletter, through our social media. So our next steps, like I said, we will allocate resources using the strategic priorities as a guide. We're going to track our metrics using key performance indicators, and we're going to utilize budgeting software to enhance capital expenditure and planning. This strategic plan is a testament of the power of collaboration and the commitment of our Tallmadge residents to shape a thriving future. Building upon community input and maintaining a clear focus on strategic goals, the City of Tallmadge is well positioned to continue success and growth. So together we will build a better Tallmadge. And that's it for my strategic plan. Everybody should have received the summary in front of you. We will, as administration, dive into this, and we have items already pulled out that we know that we can get started on. We're going to start putting them into our strategic budgeting software that we're going to be getting and being able to finance it through our budget. So I would like to thank our elected officials. Again, Megan and Molly, these two women are phenomenal. I thank you very much for everything that you do. I'm very thankful to be working with both of you. I'd like to thank you very much. I'd also like to thank our other elected officials, our city council. Again, I couldn't do anything without them. They hold the purse strings, right? So thank you to our city council members for really understanding everything that we want to accomplish and for being on board with everything as well. I'd also like to thank our boards and commissions. These community members have volunteered their time to advance the vision of our city. We have our Planning and Zoning Board, our Architectural Review Board, our Board of Zoning Appeals. There's a number of these boards that volunteers from our community are on, and they really help us with everything that we do within our city, and I want to thank them as well. Thank you. I'd like to thank the directors and the chiefs, our Director of Administration, Joe Ignazito, and our Director of Public Service, Mike Rohr. You guys do phenomenal work. Thank you very much. Thank our chiefs as well. Could not do anything without both of you, so thank you very much for everything that you do. And again, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for having us here today. I know I went over significantly. I'm very sorry for that, but there was a lot going on in 2024, especially with the strategic plan. 2025 is going to be even better, so thank you for everything. And I just want to put this up here. These are some upcoming events that we have. Again, communication is very key and letting people know what's going on. So here's some of our upcoming events. I'd like to thank everyone for their time today.